So I'm very happy to present our presenters today, Dr. Anna Müller and Béla Teeken. And they're both working on the Thousand Farms project. Béla is a social scientist and gender specialist at IITA, working on scaling on-farm testing. His work focuses on understanding farmer participation, equity, and inclusive innovation systems in breeding and seed delivery. Anna Müller is a senior scientist at the Alliance of Bioversity and CIAT and leads the Thousand Farms work package on informed product management. She conducts research on the motivations of farmers to join tricot as on-farm researchers, with a focus on how these insights can inform product profiles and breeding decisions. And today they will share with us why farmers choose to participate as citizen science in tricot on-farm trials and how farmers' motivations can support more equitable, trust-based collaboration. So with that, I'll unshare my screen. And Anna, you can go ahead, or Béla, I don't know who's starting, and share your screen. I think it's Anna.
Yeah, I'm sharing. Do you see the slides?
No, we don't see them yet.
I always have to. It's
There,
times
now it's coming up.
I always forget the second time. And now you should see it in presentation mode.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Good evening, good morning. I'm happy to see so many familiar and also new faces for this webinar. Close to the end of the year, I guess everybody is busy finalizing reports, etc. So I really appreciate you take the time being here. So I am sharing a bit today what we did in this stream of research in the Thousand Farms project. So Béla and I will be presenting, but we have a large group of collaborators on this research across different organizations. So yeah, this is a truly collaborative effort in a sense. So I will give you a short introduction into the topic. Why are we interested in understanding motivations? Then I will share what we did in a survey and also the experience with using participatory video with tricot farmers in Nigeria. And I will just briefly touch on the co-design of the farmer feedback sheet. There has been a presentation by Juan Manuel a couple of months ago, but it's also part of this. And then we will finalize with some learnings and conclusions. So why are we interested in the motivations of farmers to join tricot? So or join tricot or kind of these citizen science type of research projects where farmers engage as researchers in scientific endeavor. Yeah. So what we see is that the sustainability of these type of on-farm testing project depends on the voluntary participation of farmers, right? So they need to engage, they need to plan, they need to give their information. But still, we have always discussed in Thousand Farms what we see in the field, what we feel farmers motivate, but we don't really have any systematic understanding of what drives farmer motivation to join tricot as farmer researchers. Yeah. And then we also see sometimes current tensions in citizen science and where there's maybe a risk that farmers are then more treated as data providers rather than co-researchers, especially when we need large volume of data and the farmers share it, but they might not really have any saying on what is happening with the data after sharing it, or maybe also the impact the data has is a bit delinked from their reality. So that was a bit the background for this stream of research. So we started 1.5 years ago with a goal to explore what drives farmers to join tricot. as citizen scientists, and also to understand how we can build and how we can use these insights to build more horizontal partnerships. So farmers becoming truly researchers, so looking how these relationships become maybe less transactional, but also more trust-based. Yeah. So that was the background how we started. So we had a few research questions. What motivates individuals to participate in city science like tricot, and what can we learn from general motivations for engaging in voluntary activities? So not only in something like tricot or citizen science, but we thought it's really like a voluntary activity. So people do voluntary engagements in church, in school, in the community. Yeah? And then thirdly, we wanted to understand what contextual aspects promote or hinder motivations to participate in these voluntary research schemes. Yeah. So it was very exploratory in the beginning, and we did a few different research activities that actually now in the end really come nicely together and complement each other. So we started with an extensive literature review. What is out there? What does the literature say actually about the motivation to participate in citizen science? What does the literature say about general frameworks to understand voluntary activities? Then we more or less in parallel, we started, was also very exploratory to engage with a researcher from Peruvian German researcher working with participatory video, and we were really intrigued by the methodology and integrated this also. Béla will explain a bit more in detail and show what that means. Then we developed the survey module, and we also did the co-design of the farmer feedback sheet within tricot. So we had a broader research team and collaborating partner. One is the Alliance of Bioversity and CIAT and IITA. We were together like more leading the scientific part. We collaborated with Busara, which is a behavioral research organization. NRCRI in Nigeria collaborated with fieldwork, validation and testing of sheet and 1 acre fund in Rwanda. Here a few insights now on the literature review on the survey. So to maybe also set a bit the scene what we are talking about when we talk about motivation for voluntary participation. So to understand voluntary or motivation for voluntary participation, there are different theoretical frameworks that can help us. One is self-determination theory. I think that's probably the most widely known. We all know somehow about extrinsic and intrinsic motivation, with extrinsic motivational factors more coming from outside and intrinsic factors coming from your insights, your desire to learn or your desire to enjoy community, etc. Then there are described in the literature different motives for community involvement, for example, egoism, altruism, collectivism. And we also looked into what is called the voluntary function inventory that looks at the underlying psychological needs for voluntary participation. And these are the different theoretical frameworks that have been applied to understand participation in citizen science. And then another element that is actually important is that the motivation to participate has also like a time component, not only contextual, but also time component. So it might differ actually, let's say before you join a voluntary activity, during the voluntary activity, and after the voluntary activity, or maybe the reason to stop the voluntary activity. Yeah. So when we look at what the literature says about participation in citizen science across many fields, not only in agriculture, that this participation is mostly driven by intrinsic or altruistic motives like curiosity, desire to learn. You want to do something meaningful and help science or contribute to a broader public good or value like public health. But then there are also like more egoistic or intrinsic motives like enjoyment, or you want to develop certain skills. And then what the literature says is that purely financial motives are generally very weak as initial drivers. So it's not like you get, I don't know, a voucher or you get reimbursed some spendings, etc. What I also have to say that actually most of the studies that look at citizen science are coming from the global north. So there's relatively little also from, for example, an African context or yeah. Then when we look at the sustained participation over time, it seems to depend on a mix from more collectivistic motives, like you contribute to a community cause, you help the community, but also the egoistic motives like enjoyment, social, like the connection and the sharing, the recognition. And when we look at what can be actually factors that hinder participation, then it's mainly also around the type of engagement, like whether you have to do a very monotonous task, maybe it's not really challenging. If it's very time consuming, that hinders participation. I think we can all identify with that. But also when you have a lack of training or unclear procedures or logistical issues, you maybe need a special phone or a special equipment. And then also the feeling that one's contributions are not useful, right? So you have the intrinsic need to contribute to something meaningful. And then, I mean, another aspect when you understand motivations is, of course, then also look a bit what can be incentives to motivate or to have a more meaningful participation in citizen science. And one very important aspect is that you have regular and meaningful feedback on the contributions. So you give the contributors feedback on the reception of the data, for example, or feedback what has happened with the information, but also the opportunities to learn, gain skills, receive recognitions. Gamification is maybe also something a lot know more also from a digital interaction context, or also practical benefits can maybe relevant, right? So maybe you're participating in a health study where you donate your blood, but you also will get some more in-depth analysis of, I don't know, your nutrient status, something like that. So that was like what we did in a broader literature review. So to really understand the picture and also to set the scene. And based on what we saw, we thought that the voluntary function inventory that looks at the underlying needs for participation is maybe the most practical and also most applied for us to understand motivations in tricot. This voluntary function inventory, it's a survey module that has been developed by Clary et al. That has 6 different dimensions to explain voluntary participation. One is values, which means that you do voluntarily engage because you want to help others or contribute to the community. Understanding means that you're interested or in learning and gaining new skills. Social is more on the social interaction, so building relationships, the sense of belonging to a group. Career is about enhancing the opportunities for job search, or you gain a reputation, acknowledgement, etc., certificate. Protective is more like feeling useful, or avoiding maybe a sense of frustration because nothing's happening, etc. And enhancement, that's about more personal growth and satisfaction. So this voluntary function inventory uses these 6 dimensions to understand voluntary participation or motivation, sorry, for doing voluntary activities. We complemented this voluntary function inventory survey with another module on the lead farmers. So we wanted to understand, especially that actually came through our collaboration with Busaro, how do lead farmers influence farmers' decisions to try out new crop varieties and participate in trials? Because we, in a tricot setting, we often have a group setting, right, where there's maybe a lead farmer who organizes the group. We also have community dynamics, etc. So we thought, okay, it would be really valuable to understand not only this dynamics at the individual level, but also at the group level. So we implemented this survey in Rwanda with a total of 152 respondents with tricot farmers from 1 acre fund, not once acre fund, 1 acre fund. Cabbage, they were doing this year cabbage and maize trials. I think most of them were already done with the trials. A few trials were still active. And the survey is actually currently done by NRCRI colleagues in Nigeria with cassava farmers. These are the findings from Rwanda, which we had respondents with an average age of 52 years, ranging from 21 to 83 years, so a relatively broad age range. The majority of the respondents was male and mostly were based in rural areas and had primary education. So what we see here, the scores, so remember we had scores from 1 to 4. The farmers showed a relatively high motivation across all the 6 categories, whereas the highest motivations are actually enhancement, which is about personal growth and feeling useful, understanding, the desire to learn and gain knowledge, and lower were the social motivation and protective, like the group belonging and the reducing this motivation of reducing guilt because something is not happening. So what we see is that participation is not really driven by one single factor, but we also actually would have expected, that was kind of our surprise. We thought that maybe social and value motivational factors score higher. But it seems that learning and self-development are really a strong motivational factor, which is tricot. I mean, probably there's then also kind of a self-selection. That's then the question, right? I mean, the sample, so we did this only with tricot farmer. Maybe there's also some self-selection by those who are more motivated by learning and self-development into this. Unfortunately, we don't have the results yet from the lead farmers. Just preliminary, what we see is that what drives an individual to participate and what drives then motivation in more the group setting is a bit, let's say, are some contradictions or tensions, but maybe that would be a topic for another seminar. And in terms of demographic differences, the only differences we saw is that there are stronger values for understanding and enhancement for farmers with a higher educational level, which is probably not so surprising. So these are the survey results, and I will now hand over to my colleague Béla. Béla, you can unmute, so he will share a bit more about the participatory video and how that complements what I shared currently with a more quantitative survey approach.
Thanks, Anna. Yes, I will go on a little bit on the participatory video work that we carried out in Nigeria in two locations, and this focused more. It was focused on looking at motivations, but um, it was also really a method to build kind of horizontal communication of trust. So the questions about what motivates you, of course, were there, but people were very free to give shape to this exercise. So we had several tools that we used. Very simple tools like video tools, modern tools with an iPad, in which we co-created stories. No, people interview. We changed roles. No, we instead of we interviewing the farmers, the farmers also interviewed us and filmed this, and we looked at it together. And the idea was also the possibility. There was not a must, but the possibility was there for farmers to create a video for the based on their experiences with tricot or a little bit larger, and that succeeded. So they did paper editing and to create a script for a video. So it was a very kind of free interaction, but still very structured with regards to the different tools that we use. So we really focused on the process and building communications. Here are some two links where you can have a look at some blogs on this. So can you go to the next slide? So we did it in Osun State in Nigeria, and like I said, we had different exercises in front and behind the camera, show and tell, and searching for beauty. And these are very simple things. You just tell something in front of the camera, and then you yourself become also the questioner and ask things as well. And we saw that this really disarmed people. No, you become more like a team, and people start talking about things that they would not talk about, and you really create uh, a kind of horizontal tunnel, so to say, a connection where information and trust can flow. And I think this is really essential to create a community of practice with farmers. Now, this is kind of a social innovation to 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 foster this cooperation, and then you can build from there. You can build a community of practice. So next slide. So you see here, so you see some feedback on what farmers found of this exercise, these simple video tool exercises, and you see very much that people see their own work, in a different domain, in a domain that they usually see on TV, and a media domain. They see themselves on a screen, and they now see that their own work is kind of elevated. I mean, now I'm a modern farmer. I see my own activities in a medium that I associate with modernity, and 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 yeah, it's really. Empowering in that sense. And then also now that somebody's daughter has seen a mother on TV and being interviewed like that, and participating in such a tricot trial that gets serious attention, where data are shared, then you see that the youth see their parents now as examples, and they start helping more in the farming business. And so it really puts things on the map, and creates a kind of community of practice where people can learn apparently. Yeah, go to the next slide. So what is the storytelling is indeed very important, and people that can freely float, uh, the stories can freely float. So it creates a really emotional connection and trust between researchers and farmers. and then it empowered marginalized voices. We had children coming in saying something, and it's because of that we got to some insights that we would never think of before. So it enhanced motivation rooted in learning, cognition, and community services rather than material incentives. And researchers also changed. Now, as a researcher, we have a blog on that of which the QR codes were shared, where you really, well, the researchers on the field change themselves. Now you see that we are now going there. We realize that farmers, that data should be co-constructed and data should be an agreement, especially social science data, of course, should be an agreement with the people, and that can result into much more, I think, much more impactful innovations and bundles of innovations, as you would like to call it. Yeah, next slide. So, what are the lessons learned? I think the main lessons that we hear is that we have that this can be seen as an institutional innovation for co-creation and trust. This can be integrated in a lot of kind of bundled with a lot of other innovations where you scale technologies or you're going to cooperate with in a kind of asymmetrical relations. I think this is very helpful because it's a trust-based, it's a kind of trust-based method, and it strengthens the sustainability and impact pharma research networks. And it enhances researchers' empathy and understanding of pharma realities. And I think, based on that, maybe we can show a little 2-minute excerpt about a video that was made, that was directed by the farmers, tricot farmers themselves. And I think Anna can maybe start that off.
Do you see it?
I see it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just hope the sound is okay, but it has subtitles, so.
Nínú ìrànlọ́wọ́ náà ní ìgbéga náà ló wà tí ẹ bá wò voluntary pé ká ní ra ẹni lọ́wọ́ tí ìtàn bá fẹ́ bàjẹ́ èyí ó rìn lọ́wọ́ kó má bàa bàjẹ́ fún bí àpẹẹrẹ gẹ́gẹ́ bí tí ẹ̀gbọ́n wa tó mú wa lọ ẹ bá wo bí tẹgbà tọjọ orí gádà rẹ nígbà tí wọ́n ti ṣe wá rí pé ó ti fẹ́ gé tó wọn ọ̀yà sí wa.
Bíríìjì tó fẹ́ já yẹn.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni a sì dìde àbẹ̀rẹ̀ ìrànlọ́wọ́ ìjọba tó community effort wà lọ sí. Bàbá sì wo ohun tó ń dá wa gan ìjọba bá máa appreciate ẹ̀ níta ní níbẹ̀ gẹ̀ ó ti lé ní ton of cement kan ta lò ní ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ àti àná ó ti lé lógún cement ta lò níbẹ̀ àkóyọyọ àṣìgbà àrípé effort ìlú nìyẹn àrípé àtẹ̀tí pé a fẹ́ gbà nǹkan ṣùgbọ́n àmọ̀ pé kí ni yóò mú nǹkan wá torí pé kí ni àwọn àlejò tí ò bá wá tí ò wá ara èrè oko òun lè wá ní sílẹ̀ tí ò ní sípà àti tòpọ̀ tẹ̀ sọ́nà ẹ̀dá àwọn ti fẹ́ jà àrípé ilé yẹn gan ló fún wa ní ìwúrí àwọn tuntun ṣe fúnra wa.
Tá a wà yìí àwọn rí i pé àgbàdo yìí lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ báyìí wọ́n sì ń ṣe àìsàn fún ìdí kan tàbí ìwé ìdí rẹ̀ láti pé àìsàn kan ṣe ni pé wọ́n á yí omi mọ́ tó ọ̀gbẹ́lẹ̀ ti mú wọn. So àwọn àdáàtì àwọn ará challenges ta ní ìlànà ká fi tó àjọ IITA létí ìrọ̀lú tó ń ṣe fún wa níbi variety tricot yẹn tá a ṣe àgbéyẹ̀wò àwọn ẹ̀ka mẹ́ta nínú ìjẹ́dán fún wa àríkì tó lè dúró tí ọ̀gbẹ́lẹ̀ bá wà tó àdẹ̀lérí tí ò lè dúró gbà tí ọ̀gbẹ́lẹ̀ bá wà. So afẹ́kíwé ó ṣẹlẹ̀ bóyá níbi àgbàdo bẹ́ẹ̀ náà káwọn ṣe irú tricot kan ṣe demonstrate nípa alágbàdo náà dé tó jẹ́ pé à ń fi gbàgbàdo tí ó lè dúró gbà tí ọ̀gbẹ́lẹ̀ bá dé tí ó lè withstand ọ̀gbẹ́lẹ̀ tí ó tó lọ sí tàbí tí àgbè tó dé sí tó bá lè ṣe yẹn fún wa níbi àgbàdo tàbí cowpea tàbí ànàmọ́ tó inú àbádùn.
You want to close, or if not,
I don't. Yeah, you can continue now. I think,
Okay.
yeah, I think what we see here is specifically a farmer. There was the last one, was a tricot farmer. That was really happy with being involved in the cassava tricot. But then he said, well, okay, cassava is nice, but we have here a maize problem. We want drought-resistant maize, and they are kind of requesting, can we do such learning activity for maize, cowpea, and other crops as well?
Yeah, also, I mean, also to close, so what we see is one video, we can share the links later. There's also another video from Rwanda, and also just emphasizing on what Béla said, I think it's a truly inspiring experience, both for the farmers, but also for the researchers, because you just get to know research from a very different perspective through this video exercise. I will not go much into detail. Maybe most of you remember that we also did a redesign of the farmer feedback sheet. So the question on, oh, I actually did delete the slide, sorry. We redesigned a feedback sheet to give back farmers the information from the trials. So farmer feedback has always been, or feedback of the results to the farmers has always been part of tricot, but we've realized that it's not systematically integrated. So we thought, okay, how can we make this process easier, that the data and the results of the trials are given back to the farmers? We did this farmer feedback sheet redesign. Juan Manuel did the presentation a few months ago, and it was tested in Nigeria and very well received. So we're currently finalizing the implementation, so this will be able also for other tricot users among the resources we have in tricot. So what are the key learnings of our research? So first of all, it was like a different, we applied different approaches to understand motivations. One is maybe a more structured approach through literature review and the survey, but we also did a much more exploratory approach with the participatory video and also the farmer feedback sheet design. And I think the key learning we have is that motivation is multi-dimensional, and that farmers mostly do not really engage for material rewards, but for learning, recognition, contribution to the community, or personal growth and enhancement. For example, that's why we also in the farmer feedback sheet redesign, we included a certificate for the farmer that acknowledges the contribution of the farmer to the tricot trials. And this certificate had also been very well received. One of the key learning is that to build trust, you really need to understand how you can engage in a researcher-farmer relationship in a different way. And participatory video can be one tool to really create this trustful and reciprocal relationship. Well, that's I think one important aspect that also Béla a bit described, right, but we had not expected is that through this more empathetic lens, so to say, on the farmer, that we also changed, right? So I think we really, it was not only this research, a process of understanding motivations, but also a process of us as a team reflecting more on our role as researchers in this process. Yeah, and I think all in all, we hope that these understandings can help us to design more elements into tricot, or offer also more features into tricot that help to create research networks that are more horizontal and foster co-creation. Yeah, maybe concluding from the initial thoughts that started all this process is that farmers are not just data providers, they are really partners and innovators in the breeding process, and that we really have to look into what are the mutual benefits and learning-centered participation. as next steps, yeah, we have the survey in Nigeria. We're going to finalize this. We will prepare a research paper. We will finalize the farmer feedback sheet and put this into the tricot resources. And we will also ideate and have an ideation workshop next year where we try to understand which different elements of the results can inform maybe some little features that we could add into the tricot resources. Yeah, that's thank you so much for the participation. This was now a bit longer. Sorry, Rachel.
That's okay.
Yeah, and I want to highlight, she's not on the beginning slide, but I want to really thank Olamide and Wanze for being a really superstar in this kind of research. She's really been doing wonderful interactions with farmers, and she was not highlighted on the authors, so I want to acknowledge that now.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Anna and Béla. Fantastic presentation. I really love to see research that's mutually beneficial for both the farmers and the researchers. So that was very interesting, and I'm sure that people have learned a lot from your experience. And any questions from the floor, you can click on your React button at the bottom of the screen and raise your virtual hand, or you can put something into the chat. I open the floor now. Anybody want to share? Maybe, here we go. Okay, I don't know whose hand came up. They both appeared at once. So we'll start
Edward
with
Carey is there.
Okay.
Edward Carey is there.
Yeah, let's go with Edward, and then we'll go to Maren. Go ahead,
Yes.
Edward.
Yeah, hi. I just want to sort of make an observation and then hear a response. And so it seems to me that some of the work that's being done is done sort of directly, like the IITA researcher does it with the farmers. But in order to have really sort of large-scale reach, you kind of like need to involve extension or some other intermediate like that. And so I just I thought it was really nice that the farmer asked for maize and potato trials and whatever. But I just wonder about the perspectives on sort of broadening the reach of the tricot to such institutes as extension or others.
Thanks, Edward. Do you want to take it, Anna, or shall I take the question?
Yeah, I can maybe respond, and you then take
okay.
it over. So I mean, yes, definitely, you're right, and that's what we always actually say. Also, particularly, we should focus much more on extension in this research. So in Rwanda, we work with 1 Acre Fund, and the 1 Acre Fund field agents, both for the participatory video and also the motivation survey. But indeed, I mean, that was a one-time exercise. But for example, also the feedback from the extension agents in Rwanda was that they were really amazed by the difference of the relationship and trust with the farmers, and they were like, we really want this like they said they really value this opportunity to have a tool that allows them to understand the farmer better, create this empathy, and also because it's the dynamic in this video is also then it's really a shared learning, right? So on the downside probably is that it takes time, so you need time to learn the methodology, and you need time to go to the farm and the farmer showing. Yes, but yeah, definitely that could be also some focus that we could have on next year with the partners in Rwanda and Nigeria to understand how we could maybe broaden this a bit more in the extension system.
Yes. No, this is exactly what we need. I mean, we've done this, and we want to publish on it, and not only publish as a normal article, but some of those videos will also be published. We think about publishing them together, and then also a kind of guide. No, it's this is a tool. Like you have a new variety, we have also this kind of guide, and then we, of course, that is something that you want to scale among extension officers. So this is really crucial. And with regards to your comment, if we are um, putting this on a higher level, yes. For example, with the Variety Release Committee in Nigeria, we have now achieved that tricot is a possible way of doing on-farm testing for variety release. So it's now included in their guidelines for variety release as an option, and they are very keen to have a full kind of manual of tricot, and uh, this kind of innovation can be part of that. It can be a step in that, and that's what we want to achieve. So that that if people who want to do tricot can kind of get a bundle of stuff together how to best carry it out with regards to feedback of results and everything. So this we have it officially inscribed in that system, so to say. But of course, it has to go to the practice on the ground with different extension officers. And it's also now been used. We have also doing the same in DRC and in Congo, where we have also released varieties based on the tricot method. And that also, of course, didn't go. This is all learning still, but didn't fully go as it should. And we are kind of working with the variety release committee in DRC as well to include it as an option there.
Great, thank you,
Thanks.
Béla. Thanks. Sounds like we need to watch this space for more information coming from you when you published your paper and you get some more results. We'll look forward to that. I have a hand up from Marine, I think is how you say your name. You can go ahead and unmute.
Yes. Hello. Thank you for the nice presentation. I actually had two questions. I don't know if that's too enthusiastic, if there's enough time for that. But my first question was regarding the participation of men versus women. I also saw that indeed on your slide it said mostly men participated, and we did a tricot in India with tribal communities, and we had done another type of trial the year before, and we saw that it was quite difficult to engage women. So we thought for the tricot we make an extra effort, but what we found that. But what we saw was that for certain parts of the tricot, it was quite easy to engage women. For example, the beginning, we ended up sowing the fields together with the farmers because all the farmers felt a bit insecure about how the experiment was set up. So we ended up doing that with them, and then the women were happy to be part of that. And that was the same with the group discussion at the end of the tricot, where they were asked about their opinion of the project and how did it go, what can be better. But for the ranking exercise, we found that many women were very uncomfortable because it was not a group activity. We deliberately asked other people to let them do this. But let the farmer do this exercise by themselves because they were trying to influence them. But then women especially became very shy and reluctant to do this type of exercise. And I was wondering if something like that ever happened to a tricot project that you did, and if you have any suggestions on how to make women feel more comfortable doing such a thing. That was my first question. The second one is short.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So, I mean, in terms of participation in the survey, I think we are 55% were male, then 45 women. In the participatory video, I think maybe Béla can say a bit more about Nigeria, but in Rwanda we did have both female and male farmers. But then during the exercise, it turned out to become very much family focused. So everybody who was around started to join as well in the exercise.
Okay.
But for the Nigeria and also the the gender and social inclusion expert here for tricot is Béla, so I hand over.
Yeah, no, this is an important point, and I think there's a major difference with India. What we saw in these video exercises is that women as well as men are equally uh, eager to engage and also to be a participant in in tricot. So we show the excerpts that you saw were indeed two men talking, but we have enough other examples where we uh, worked with women. So we didn't have that problem. Like they felt uncomfortable to talk about that we didn't have, especially in Nigeria. We no we didn't see that so much. Charles can say something more about Rwanda if he's there, maybe. But no, we didn't have that issue. But to come to a solution in India, indeed, it might be nice then if certain women are too shy that they might want to have a spokesperson or a representative in their community, a woman maybe that is a little bit more of kind of a leader that can then be engaged to be part of those individual approaches because they can indeed some people just don't like to work alone and you have to be in a group. So you can kind of work with specific lead farmers or persons that kind of you know make a group also of those, no, because it is an individual approach, but that's also a reason why we did it in Nigeria in a group because we know that uh, people like to be kind of part of the or do it only alone. They like to be part of a group because then they also can learn from each other. We had several cases where people visited their trials and all that. So we worked through a lead farmer that is kind of chosen by those farmers. No? So might be good to have a mechanism in there that you have you have a few a group of women in a community that probably you see that they want to participate or you can yeah then you can work with a confidence person that they themselves appoint or well it depends very much on the cultural context how that goes of course but it would be good to have maybe a spokesperson that is kind of specific spokesperson that make turns those participants into a group. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question. I've got two more hands raised and we only have about 5 minutes left. So let's move on to the next question. Shahu, can you unmute and ask your question, please?
Good. In Nigeria here, good afternoon for the presentation. I want to quickly say that in Nigeria, the National Variety Release Committee have accepted tricot as an alternative for on-farm, where I'm the national coordinator for soybeans under the technical subcommittee on variety release. But the question I keep asking, the level of resources and input invested in tricot and only bringing it to just replace on-farm, does it really worth it? I think we'll begin to see how tricot should do more just than replacing the on-farm in the variety release committee because the effort put in is much, but as an accepted, that's okay. And again, I want to also ask, in the tricot we also worked with farmers, but for us to have a structure like the extension agents across different states, in Nigeria we have states and local governments. there are extension agents, but they may not be functioning the way they should function. But if you want for continuity and structure, there must be a way to also include them than just working directly with the farmers for continuity. Like us, what we did in soybeans currently, we have the Nigerian Soybeans Association. It's a body umbrella that cut across the country. So we use that platform to get farmers as a better structure for continuity. That's what we are currently doing in soybeans with Dean Mungani. And so because for continuity, and also quickly add that if we are looking at the ratio of women and men in participation, we should also check if you go to processing and marketing, you see that the percentage of men and women in processing and marketing, women may be 70 or 80%, men may just be 10 or 20. But once you come to the real farm, which is we have more labor there, you always see the percentage of men higher. So let's try to strike a balance, not just saying what happens on the farm. You normally see the percentage of men higher than women. But when you get to processing and marketing, women population are usually mostly higher than men. So let's try to put a balance, not just one side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shani, for your comments. I don't know if Anna or Béla want to respond to that. Yeah, go ahead.
I fully agree. There's this general complaint a little bit. It's complicated. Tricot is complicated. It's costly. It's basically because it's a kind of a new method and it has quite some statistical thing behind it and some logistics and organization, which have been in the learning phase over the last 5 to 6 years. We are now coming together with tools that are kind of comprehensive and straightforward, and also online analysis that can be done more click-wise, so to say, rather than having to download everything to R and doing all those things, which is still important to do. But indeed, for practicality, certain people don't need very advanced things, but they still want to segregate the data by some demographics or whatever, or combining it with some climate data. That is in place, and we have seen also we have done costing exercises. It doesn't have to be more expensive, but as people are in the beginning learning, it is really a little bit of a learning exercise, and also to kind of group people together a little bit. So not having this kind of theoretical representation of very far away farms in each community, because then it becomes indeed quite difficult to manage. And if you manage it a little bit pragmatically, like certain groups in certain villages, it is not more complicated than doing normal on-farm testing for variety release, with a big difference that people are just much more engaged and that you get more data out of here. You get much more data out of your trial. So that's one thing, and that tricot approach. The idea is also that this is going to be inserted in curriculums in universities and also in extension programs, so that that people get acquainted with this. And you're very right. I mean, in Nigeria, for example, in our side, in the southwest, working to extension officers didn't really work because there was quite some non-functioning or corruption involved, so we avoided that. But if you go to the southeast, for example, where NRCRI was working, you see that extension officers are more respected, and they themselves can be seen, of course, as extension officers, and that worked very well. And the tricot method is also very much integrated into their skills. So it's really a learning loop, and it is just about getting those guides, those comprehensive guides, so that people know what to do when and where in place, and then it can work out. So it doesn't have to be much more expensive, but of course it works best with inclusion of digital tools, and that it can be people's mobile phone, and it's about training and getting to learn a new way of doing. But I think it's true also that should not be restricted only to variety release. We have included it there as a possibility, which is a nice achievement. But tricot is also very useful to do within the breeding program a little bit earlier in the breeding cycle, no? So that you have maybe you have 50, you are at your AYT stage and you have 50 varieties that you think, well, I don't know how they would perform, and let's just send them out, and that for that it's also very useful. So it has different applications, and it also has an application for private sector. For example, Bayer in Kenya is using tricot to know what kind of varieties do well in which areas, no? Which could also be done in IITA with the business incubation platform. We have those things in the shelf now, like the varieties that are being promoted. If you do a tricot on it, you get really nice market information, what flies and what doesn't fly, and who buys it, and all that. So it's also a great marketing tool. And I think that all needs to be well articulated. And I agree. So that it's not only about having it in variety release, because you also, so in with variety release you're at the end, no, you have your candidates that you propose, and it's quite late. But there's also a very good thing about integrating, no? If you, for example, if you have 20-30 varieties evaluated, and then you get that information back, and then you see that the candidates that you have at the end for variety release, and they were among that earlier tricot that you did, then you don't have to do on-farm testing anymore because it's nested. No? Your on-farm testing was already nested in an earlier breeding trial. So these are all possibilities that can be explored. So that's my question, if that
Great.
makes any sense.
Thank you for all the information, Béla. I think we're going to have to close. It's 3 o'clock now. And but I just wanted to let you know that in the chat, I put the link to the webinar that Anna and Juan Manuel did on the farmer feedback sheets earlier this year. So that's a recording on the community website. So please go and check that out if you're interested. And yeah, I'll just quickly share the kind of final couple of slides. So there's the website for the community where you can see the recorded webinars, and this one will also be there. In addition, next week we'll have another webinar, so look out for that invitation. I hope you can all make it. It will be the last one of the year. And with that, I just want to say thank you to you all for joining us today. And especially to Anna and Béla for sharing your work with us. It was very interesting, and we all appreciate it very much. So thank you.